And we're live. Welcome to the Games Tavern, everyone. The Games Tavern Happy Hour, where a bunch of us nerds get together and talk about nerdy tabletop games, reviews, news, and interviews with people from the tabletop gaming space. We're excited to have you guys here with us today. Don't forget to follow the Games Tavern on Twitch. It's free and supports the cast and show. If you have Amazon Prime, then you also get a free Prime Gaming subscription, which you can use to show your support to all of us here at the Games Tavern by subscribing to the Games Tavern. Prime Gaming subscribers get access to the sub-only emotes and also access to a special subscriber-only Discord channel on our Discord. And remember, you can watch us live on Twitch, and all shows are uploaded to YouTube roughly 48 hours later, so you can catch up on all the interviews and reviews you may have missed. I'm so glad to have everybody join us tonight. And I'm joined by our awesome co-host, Jeff. Jeff, say hello.
So you all missed it, but that was one of the slowest count-ins that I've heard in quite a while. I'm just saying, like, it took a minute to get us going.
Well, that's I'm just slow today. What can I say? Tonight, we have an interview with Marc Schubert, the creative mind behind Ice Cream Dice. He comes with a great history in tabletop games and just a really cool, chill vibe around the guy. And then, of course, we're also going to talk to you shortly about the latest new releases and discussions as well. Let's see here. Let's talk about our sponsor. If I could have you bring up the cool double screen so I can show this amazing piece here. That was just spectacular. That's some of the creative genius talent you get to see when you watch the Velkin Weave every week. It's one of those fun things that you get to check out. So, and Tom is awesome for coming up with that ditty. I couldn't resist not showing it at least one more time for those people who are back home and watching us.
Oh no! Did the audio from it come through, or did everyone miss it? I was not paying attention to the audio on that side.
Were you unable to catch the audio?
Just the human indicate that they were asking about audio or not.
Tech Goblins, give me a heads up in Tech Goblin chat if you can on that one.
Like, they can hear us right now. I don't know
Yeah,
if
but could they not hear?
Yeah, sounds like they did not get the video.
Oh my gosh. Well, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop that video where you guys can see the link itself.
Y'all missed out.
in the Games Tavern Discord channel for the happy hour, and you guys, or actually it'll be in the Vulcan Weave channel probably, and you guys can see it there.
Our greatest apologies. Yeah, it's this great ditty by Tom, who plays Boat Whiz Bang in the Vulcan Weave, where he does our advertisement for our sponsor, and it's amazing. It's like 20 or 30-second song.
He he came up with a ditty for Overhead Games that was just unbelievable. Let me see here. Hang on here. Let me pull that up here. There it is. And I'm gonna take that and we'll figure it out here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure that shows up in the channel there for everybody on the Discord for everybody to see. If you go to live shows and go to the Games Tavern Happy Hour, you'll see us drop that here.
That was weird. We were also getting some choppiness through the mics as well.
That is weird. It's like today we were getting some weird stuff with the mics where at one point it was doing this thing where everybody's mics were like super pumped and powerful. Like we were hearing everything on everybody's mics. It was kind of weird.
Yeah.
So, well, check out Overhead Games. They're the makers of the Epic Character Generator. And more importantly, we're giving away an Epic Character Generator live on stream today. It comes with a fantasy pack plus 3 upgrade packs of your choice. 3 upgrade choices. 3 upgrades. I don't know if it's of your choice. Let me be clear. But anyway, really awesome. The raffle is already started. If you type !epic in the chat, you get a chance to get it. You must be a follower to enter, and you must be present in the chat for the staff to contact you to present the prize to you as the winner at the end of the show. So make sure you're sticking around and watching what we got today. So, Jeff, have you done any cool hobby stuff this week?
This week. No, not today's. This week's mostly just been some online Megamech, which is the virtual version of BattleTech, a tabletop miniatures game. But that's really been it this week. It's kind of a really hard work week, so I haven't been doing too much.
Okay. Well, then you just suck. You need to do more on your hobby, and you need to have more fun, and stop doing this thing like a day job and all this other stuff that you're doing.
I try. Okay. I mean, we did. I know this won't mean anything for a lot of you, but we did a 86,000 BV battle in 5 hours in Megamech. It was, which is really fast for those that don't know about BattleTech. But
well, Megamech is cool, and you are a BattleTech guy.
I am.
You are. All right. Well, with that, let's transition to the news. Yeah. I think we got do we get the cool music post when we do that? Has that happened yet? Do we get that anymore?
No one's asked me to record it yet, so no.
No, we have a stinger for that. I thought we built a cool stinger. I don't remember. All right, starting off, hey, welcome to the Games Tavern. We're going to just go through the news here before the interview and talk to you about the coolest new releases that have been coming up over the last few weeks. Starting with something that Jeff pulled out, which I was very, very, excited to see, is the Modifius post. You want to talk about that one?
Yeah. So in a line that they've got going now with their 2D20 systems, they are now in the process of creating a 2D20 Fallout tabletop role-playing game that promises to be they're promising that it's going to be more closely related to the setting found in the video games. So unlike their previous one from 2019, which was more in line with their Wasteland Warfare miniatures game, this one's going to be a true built around tabletop role-playing game. It's using their 2D20 system. So you get as close to the bottle cap bartering, wasteland wandering, brotherhood battling excitement of Fallout that you can.
Try saying that 3 times fast.
I know, right? So 2D20 system, for those that don't know, it's a role-playing rule set that supports both a story-led adventure and detailed gameplay. You make use of action points to power your incredible powers and augment your actions with different types of perks. It's a pretty good system. It's being Modifius has turned it into over 10 settings that I'm aware, including Star Trek. Star Trek. They just did Octong Cthulhu just released just a month ago.
Yeah,
So
and that was totally caught too.
yeah. So it's gonna this system, this book is gonna allow you to create a group of original characters from vault dwellers. You can build ghouls, you can build super mutants, and even robots. So it's gonna allow you to play basically what you want to play from the games. It's a 438 page hardbound book. That's a huge rule book. That is massive. Most you see are in the 200 range. So this thing is quite impressive. It's available now for pre-order with an expectation to ship this summer. Pretty quick.
Now, is this Fallout and then it's got 3 1s on the cover just talking about it, or is this Fallout 111? Like Vault 111? Is that what this is? Or
I think that's just the cover. They're just using the 111 Vault 111 as the backdrop. Or perhaps I don't know if it's going to be area. I'm sure it's going to be area agnostic, as in you don't have to play Vault 111. You can play Vault whatever you want, including some of the Fallen vaults, perhaps. But
because some of those were pretty creepy vaults.
As long as the stats are special, I am sure that they will be. I would be shocked and appalled if not. Because you can't hype this up as close to the video game as you can get in a role playing game and not follow some of those simple things.
Vilas Farthuk is obviously giving us some great commentary. So is this something you're going to pick up? I'm kind of interested. I'm probably going to pick it up. We'll see.
When you pick it up, I'll pick it up.
Isn't that how it works with us usually? All right, what do we got next here? Oh, well, we kind of short on TTRPG stuff this week.
It's been a quiet couple months now for TTRPG. It's we'll get like onesies and twosies, but it's a slow period for TTRPGs. However, miniatures are exploding.
Yeah, so let's get into that. So we start with Warhammer Underworld starter set. So the new Warhammer Underworld starter set is coming out. The previous Underworld starter set was pretty cool, but the new one's just as cool, if not cooler. So you're going to learn the fundamentals of the game with 2 complete warbands, Drepper's Wraithkeepers, and the Storm of Celestis, which are 2 pre-constructed starter decks and all the dice, tokens, boards, and other gubbins you need to start with, Warhammer Underworlds. I think this is set to arrive, or it's on pre-order Saturday, 10 April.
Yes,
when it comes out.
Pre-order starts this weekend. Mm-hmm. And it's another one of those games it's a really interesting. If you haven't played Underworlds, this is a really great opportunity to get on board with it, because it mixes both a miniatures game and a card building game at the same time. So your deck matters as much as the models on the table, which is an interesting concept.
I think what's interesting to me is to see that the Sigmar, the Storm of Celestis group here is ranged fighters versus.
I know those are some beefy boys carrying some beefy crossbows there.
Yeah, but there's no melee in the bunch, so it's interesting to see how that's going to play out.
Yeah,
but it's a great way to start playing Warhammer Underworlds. But not only that, with Underworlds, we've got some more with that. The Crimson Court of Soul Blight. So along with the starter set, the Crimson Court is the next warband for Warhammer Underworlds. You get to make use of the new hunger mechanic from Dire Chasm, and you balance this force from the top end fighting machines to bloodthirsty monsters. So you're really kind of spoiled for choice here. The vampires, for example, on this are looking pretty feisty. I'm impressed. The models are amazing.
I mean,
jagged plate armor.
Yeah, and this is the type of like kind of generic enough vampires. These can be used in a lot of systems in a lot of different games, not just Warhammer.
Yeah. Yeah, they look right for a lot of different things. And then the one with bat wings on his back.
Yep.
That's hot. And then 76 new cards for decks to support the Crimson Court. This is also available for pre-order on 10 April, this
Yep.
upcoming weekend. This is a hot set, and I love me some vampires. And this is one of those miniature selections that's kind of hard to pass up, especially for
There's a lot of vampires coming in a bunch of different Games Workshop systems right now.
Yeah.
Not only is Underworld getting vampires, but some of their other things set in this fantasy slash Age of Sigmar setting is getting a bunch of vampire stuff. So, which is really, really great to see. It means that there's going to be lots of opportunities, lots of models on the table,
Mhm.
lots of different things. Because one thing that this group is missing is some underlings. But I think some underlings can be found in the next thing.
Well, I think you're right. So let's go right to it. The Cursed City pre-order, or is it? So Warhammer Quest is back with a brand new edition. It's available to pre-order, or it would be if it hadn't already sold out within 48 hours over the weekend on the Games Workshop web store. Games Workshop knows full on how many people are probably going to order something in advance. I wish they would just have more of the boxes
They
and just
even
commit to more of it.
they even stated that they would only allow one purchase per account.
Yeah, I just don't understand it, but they
But
did it.
but the fact of they also came out with a special edition rule book for this, like
Mhm.
one of their fancy bound books and stuff. They're like 1,200 of these. I'm like, that doesn't sound nearly enough for a.
Yeah. So the Cursed City Warhammer cooperative board game, it can be played solo or with up to three of friends, which doesn't hit Jeff's minimum standard of 5 to 6 players to make it a really awesome board game. Generally speaking, the game looks similar to other miniature RPG games where you take a hero as part of an adventuring group to fight cooperatively against the massive hordes of danger that are on every board game, right? It's pretty cool, right?
It reminded me, what was the board game that was the basis of 4th edition D&D? Do you remember it came
Hero
out?
Quest?
mm,
Advanced Hero Quest?
I don't think it was Hero Quest.
No. Mage Knight? No.
But it was a D&D game that was a
Uh-huh.
board game, and it set the basis for what 4th
Oh.
edition, because it came with those cards that have like once a day, once an encounter type powers. Like,
Hmm.
it reminds me a lot of that. The cards even looks very similar. That was, I don't know, 10 years ago maybe.
That
God.
was quite a while back. I don't even remember it. I kind of like blacked out during 4th edition. It's, just started drinking heavily. It just went down south once I saw 4th edition. It didn't work for me. But you'll be undertaking quests in this particular game against a clock to complete everything before the day-night cycle in the game changes, because every time it changes, something else changes, right? So Warhammer Quest Cursed City includes a whopping 60 miniatures, 8 wildly different choices of hero, 42 hostiles, and 10 mysterious objects. You'll also find a suite of cards, tiles, tokens, and more, as well as a 40-page rule book and a 56-page quest book. I'm perturbed how they let this one sell out. And then
Yeah.
you want to mention the merchandise a little bit on that shirt?
Yeah, I know, right? Again, after the weakness that I kind of had the disdain for the elves and their shirts that did not impress me. Again, they go back to showing something that's more catchy, something that's more, I wouldn't call it memey, but just more grab you and hold your attention with just a really nice skull with the words death, very indicative of the city, the curse, like it's got the symbol over the top. This is the stuff that they need to be putting down, not just some art shows. This is the stuff. Like, this is what makes me
Jeff's not
so
subtle
happy.
about what he likes. He'll tell you if he likes something.
I will.
That's for certain. Okay. So take us into the next cool miniatures release that we've got going on here, Jeff. I think this one is going to be also pretty cool.
Yeah, it's the beginning of the month. April is here, and of course, what's that mean? It is new releases preview for Malifaux. This month brings us another batch of models to support the new Explorers Society faction. They're those ones there in teal. They get 3 new boxes. The top left is a new Masters box, and then the other 2 are support boxes for different groups in the Explorer Society faction. In addition to that, Neverborn and Guild are both getting some goodies. Includes the Half Bloods for the Neverborn and Sanctioned Magic users for the Guild, adding Enforcers, Henchmen, and Minions to those respective factions. Um, just all around more stuff, more models keep pumping out. We're going to see 5 to 6 boxes a month for the foreseeable future. Um, and then also as a reminder, we're still in the middle of Weird's Easter sale event that's going on right now. You have until the 8th, I believe, so or the 9th, so Friday. It's as good as time as any to pick up models to get some of their more outrageous. And I say that while I'm talking about Weird, which is weird. As their models
Jeff, you're always good about the punnies, my friend.
As their models are already quite out there. For example, Victoria's in a bunny suit right there in the bottom right-hand corner. It's an older model, but this is the type of stuff you can expect from them. We previewed them last week. If you want to see what they got new this year, go check out our show on our video on YouTube. And yeah, nothing crazy. There's nothing crazy in this set that's coming out. Just some solid stuff. A new master is always good. The Half Bloods were things that I've been waiting for a while. But yeah, just solid models. It's good weird stuff.
Outstanding. It's good weird stuff, and I think that's a good statement that we can actually, I think we should leverage that one. Good weird stuff. That's kind of like an example of what our show is all about. So let's see here. Coming up next is something that should be no surprise. Corvus Belli.
Yep. And
this is like just some paint. Goodness gracious! Look at these miniatures.
Hey, a new month again brings us a new roll-up of Infinity models. Wonderful. I like this month the most because all of these models, they all appear standard Infinity releases, and they're not for their offshoot game. 12 new models, 3 booster packs, 2 are single specialists, the 2 there in the front. You can kind of just tell by their color schemes which ones are matched. It's 3 on the left, 3 on the right, 4 in the middle, and then the 2 front ones are singular models. Mm-hmm. Many of them, and I don't know if I've just never noticed before, but I probably have noticed, and then I probably just didn't notice. Cloaks. I love cloaks. These cloaks are great on these models. Because who doesn't love armor with a cloak? Like it gives it that badass.
Because when you're wearing fully functional sealed powered armor that gives you a homeostatic, temperature controlled environment, having a cloak is just saying, I don't need one, but I have one because it looks cool.
Hey, Rinian carried a cloak in armor. Cloaks are cool.
Rinian was in a fantasy world wearing regular armor like knights of the realm would wear, not that amazing thing, but it does look cool. It does definitely look cool.
So the big one in the top left probably is my favorite of the batch. It's the Pan Oceania, which is one of my preferred factions. It's got the big gun. It's got the big cloak. Just love it.
I like the one that's dead center. The one with the jetpack or, the flight pack there, and he's shooting it on the way down.
Oh, yeah. That's a really good action pose.
I think that reminds me of something from some of the... I think that's one of the art pieces. It's based on one of the art pieces in the book. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you going to pick up the one with the cloak? It's probably a squad box, right?
I mean, I would pick it up just because I need more miniatures, but that means I got to paint more miniatures.
It means you get to paint more miniatures, my friend.
That's not how this works.
Yes, it is, my friend. It's exactly how this works.
Maybe for some of you.
All right. Well, hey, coming up next, the biggest of the big, it is the Gargantuan Tiamat model. It's not going to be out in time for the Velkin Weave to face her, potentially. But a new Tiamat model is definitely coming from WizKids for Dungeons and Dragons. 14 inches tall with a 28-inch wingspan. This model will dominate any table or be a gorgeous centerpiece for anything on your display shelves and stuff like that. And it will properly place the fear of this devil queen of dragons on the field. So if you pre-order this now, it should have an expected date sometime in September of this year. We
I don't
took a
think
look
you
at
put.
this.
I don't think you put enough emphasis on just how wide that is.
28 inches is over 2 feet.
Yeah,
It's over 2 feet wide.
That is massive.
I just gotta say though, it is massive. Does it come painted?
Ooh, I don't know if it mentioned or not.
Let's see here.
It probably did in one of the.
It does not actually say. It does not actually say.
Now this is.
It's icon of the. It's D&D icons of the realm, so it means it's painted.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. A pre-painted miniature from the icon of the realms at $400. That's a pricey miniature, so it better be over 2 feet wide. You know what I mean? So it's just.
You say that, and yet, you've got Fantasy Flight and not WizKids, but Games Workshop charging $20, $30, $50 for 1 to 2 models.
Have you seen the quality of those models?
Oh, okay.
And you know how many different ways you can put those models together?
I think the Fantasy Flight ones come assembled.
The ones from Games Workshop don't.
Sure.
And the ones from Games Workshop have all sorts of extra accessories, are posable in many different positions, blah, 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 blah.
I'm just saying, for its size, the price isn't that bad.
Well, I look forward to seeing this on somebody's table. And if you get this miniature, we want you to send us pictures of it because, by golly, it's going to be big. You
might have to back up to take that picture.
You're going to have to back up quite a ways, I think, to take that picture. So, fantastic miniature. Can't wait to see it on somebody's table. Switching gears a little bit. Speaking of tables, let's talk about board games a little bit because those are played on tables. See, that was the best transition I could do for that. I'm sorry if it wasn't perfect, but that's
no. It is excellent. And Z-Man Games is bringing one of my favorite board games back for a 20th anniversary edition. They're not really bringing it back. They're releasing a 20th edition box set. I'm going to pick it up just because, 1, I love the game. 2, I'm going to put it on my shelf and it's going to look great. It's a classic tile placement game, Carcassonne. I love this game. I use it all the time, particularly when I'm introducing new people, my parents, friends that maybe never gamed before. It's a very simple, very easy tile placement game to really get those juices flowing on how to think about in games for a lot of players. And it's an easy game to banter about as you're playing because it doesn't take a ton of attention, right? You can it's similar to card games, right? You kind of play as you go and it flows. This 20th edition set is coming with the complete base game, and while it's going to have some really nifty upgrades and stuff, it's going to remain compatible with all previous expansions. So all the tiles are still going to be the same size. They're just going to be fancy with different art and shiny. It's going to be upgraded with high gloss UV spot print on all the tiles and the box itself, which again, why I want to get it because it's going to look great on the shelf because it's going to shine from there. To make the details shine and celebrate the momentous anniversary.
This box is next level. I do want to see what the actual final game is going to look like, and I look forward to seeing that.
Well, it's going to be the same game. It's just what they're going to do is they're going to upgrade with brand new illustrations all the tiles. So all the tiles are getting upgraded illustrations. I hope they do something with the cities. It's always kind of been one of the drabbier parts for me. And as you can see, they're going to come with these stickers that you place on your meeples to help with your decorated characters, to give it a little bit more life than just the meeple sitting on the thing. I especially like uh, the Pope one, or the bishop, the monk.
Cardinal, the you've got the monk, you've
Bishop,
got the swordsman, you've got the shepherd lady.
farmer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff.
It's pre-orders open now. Its expected release is this summer. I've already, of course, pre-ordered, but you know, I think just it's just going to be one of those conversation pieces because it the way that they describe it and the way that they had the display, it kind of is going to just shine from the light. It's going to catch it and catch someone's eye.
Definitely. Let's bring it to the next cool things that we talk about, our Kickstarter roundup. So what do we got with that?
Yeah, so we get
So
all.
that's when you and I were talking about on Discord yesterday, actually.
Yeah, so I don't think you've played Big Eye Small Mouth, right?
No, not at all.
All right, so BESM, for those that don't know, is or was, kind of still is, the preeminent game that you would RPG that you would play if you want to bring anime to the tabletop. And now that same creator, Mark McKinnon, is kickstarting a 5e compatible version of Big Eyes Small Mouth for D20 Fantasy, called pretty simply called Anime 5e.
How many of you guys in chat are anime fans? Just kind of give us an emoji if you are. We'd like to know. Keep going.
Yeah, so published under the Open Gaming license. It's going to be a single book, so nothing outlandish. Not like the multi set that we saw with some of the other Kickstarters. It's going to contain everything you need for playing anime or a manga RPG adventure. It's a point-based system balance for standard 5th edition. Wide selection of races, classes, skills, features, powers, game mechanics, and combat options on top of all of the foundation that is 5e. You were mentioning that you're kind of surprised at the 14 new classes.
Yeah, I don't know why they would need to invent all new classes per se, but outside of taking existing classes and turning them into archetypes, just adding specific archetypes for this.
That might, because it doesn't go into a ton of detail, but given its predecessor, Big Eye Small Mouth, already being pretty solid, I don't expect this to get too crazy. But yeah, that's kind of what I would expect as well. Is that they're going to try to blend the standard classes into something that's more appropriate for an anime manga setting. Now, what is cool is that this isn't going to be fantasy or urban. There's not going to be singular genre, right? It's going to be adaptable to any type of anime that you're playing. Like, I'm sure that you can do mecha or anything like that if you really set your mind to it. It's going to be a 272 page core book, very solid. They got 100 illustrations from different artists, which is great. It's going to be laminated, durable Smith sewn binding, so you can lay it flat without expecting the binding to break. Always a big thing, because I can tell you how many books that I have on my shelf right now that are broken because of that. It's got a really solid backing, and it still has 16 days left. Closing on Thursday, this 22nd. So
it's definitely going to be a spectacular 5e splash.
It's not going to be for everyone, and I can
No.
I can already see that. I can already see the apprehension.
No. 5e is so flexible that they could do something like this. The 14 new classes, I'm just curious, like, what are they reinventing, or how are they shifting it that they needed to do 14 new classes as opposed to fighter, and then create an archetype that fits as well. But I am prepared to have my eyes opened. I like watching anime. I don't necessarily know that I'd want to play anime, but for the right person, this is a fantastic opportunity, and the artwork is already fantastic as well. And I love anything with great art in it. So it's just one of those things that I think that if you're the right person, this is the ultimate choice. And it's got some solid potential. 14 new races, there might be some entertainment value in there.
Villas brings up a good point. and that was the introduction of flaws. So I love flaws in a game. I like the idea of one for two reasons. Typically, they come with a point system, so you can get some extra cool stuff. But at
Mhm.
the second on the back end, they allow you to really flavorize a hero with a drawback. Um, it adds such depth that you just don't get when you're trying to role play,
Mhm.
like role play a missing eye versus mechanically having a missing eye.
Mhm.
Which it's a big selling point for me.
Okay.
I miss it in certain games. That's one of my favorite games. Legend of Five Rings has flaws. Um, so
Well, they have personality flaws in D&D. So my concern is this is going to get confused with the flaws, the bonds, the flaws, and some of the other things that are brought up when you're talking about personalities stuff from D&D.
no, I don't know if I've seen the flaws in D&D.
Yeah, even your character has one. Rinian had them. We can talk about Rangrim. Perhaps we should add some.
Wait, Rinian had a flaw.
Uh-huh. He did.
Did I know about this?
Yes, it was a paladin. So, um, all right. So, well, apparently his major flaw was he liked to get hit by swords of wounding. So, moving to the next thing, we've got something I'm excited about, which is Sentinels of the Multiverse Definitive Edition. I have a lot of this stuff. I love these cards. It was originally released in 2011. This cooperative card game saw comic book style heroes battling against villains in a multitude of environments. Each hero, villain, and environment are represented by a deck of cards. Heroes and villains also have character cards, which provide their hit points and other information specific to that character. Now, Sentinels of the Multiverse is back and better than ever. So it's going to have all new art, notably streamlined mechanics, new stories to experience, and it's bringing back that award-winning cooperative comic book card game that you've been waiting for if you didn't play the original, as well as the opportunity for those people who didn't get it the first time. This is your opportunity to get the game and play with your friends. So this is a fantastic set to pick up. There's only 2 pledge levels to keep it streamlined. 1, get the game, and 2, get the games and sleeves for every card in it. They're really not doing any frills for this. So for a game with no stretch goals or intent to add any free swag, no matter how high it goes, it's already got close to 4,000 backers. It's still got 17 more days, and it's ending on Friday, April 23rd. Is this one way past funding?
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Blew past it. Um, and I think it's understated that I think they redid the art on almost every single card. Same artist, just 10 years later, skills developed. If you've,
Improved.
yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely, if you enjoyed the first one, this should be, this is just, I wouldn't say replace, but it effectively can replace your original box set because it's going to have all the same stuff, but different art, better art, supposedly, eye of the beholder and all that, but also streamlined rules, which is a big piece. Original rule mechanics from 2011 that have over time play testing thousands upon thousands of games, inputs and everything gotten streamlined into this new rule set. Very solid. I like the the 2 pledge levels. That's
Get the game with sleeves.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
effectively.
What's this next one coming up here? I looked at, all I could do is stare at miniatures, and I couldn't get past anything else on it because I was too busy salivating at miniatures. Talk us through this one, Jeff.
So I don't. You might really be interested in this. It's a really interesting concept. It's one that you've probably seen before. It's Lasting Tales by Blacklist Games, cooperative tabletop miniature game for 1 to 5 players. From Mark Latham, one of the individuals who worked on Walking Dead: All Out War, Elder Scrolls: Call to Arms, and Lord of the Rings strategy battle game. The game itself is built to be a mix between a role playing game and a tabletop skirmish game, as you are going to basically build up your hero with your team, your party of different players, and then you're going to take them across the campaign. You're going to build them up over multiple sessions. So it's kind of like just a campaign game in any other type of tabletop role playing game, where you have XP, like Necromunda or uh, the BattleTech campaign system.
Mm-hmm.
All the different games have this stuff, but I haven't really seen one that's more fantasy oriented. So it's almost a niche. I'm sure there's one out there, but there's no big one. So it's a really good spot to be. It's got unique hero creation. It's got pre-made heroes if you don't want to do the unique system. So it's a lot easier to pick up and play if you need to. If it's just a one-off or something. It's expanded. You can even expand it beyond the miniatures provided, as everything is going to be the rules are miniatures agnostic, is what they say, which is basically, if you've got the stats or you create the stats for a monster and you place it on the table, you can play and fight it. Um, and terrain doesn't matter. You can put whatever terrain that you happen to have on the table. It's all works, right?
Mm-hmm.
The box set itself is going to come with 177 miniatures, which I know is what interested you. Uh,
Yeah, and the quality of the miniatures as well. I mean, they look like they have some really good looking miniatures.
Yeah, they're not the fanciest, right? This isn't
Yeah.
this isn't weird. This isn't Games Workshop. They're just going to be solid miniatures to add to the collection, to place on the table.
The poses are three dimensional. They're not flat.
Yep.
They definitely have some action poses for the heroes that are impressive. This looks like it's going to be a great set of minis.
Yeah. And if you just want the rules, which I know most people want the miniatures, because for the cost, all those miniatures is pretty good. I think it's like $75 gets you all the miniatures plus stretches. So,
Totally worth it.
but if you just want the book because you're more interested in the role playing aspects or in that campaign system, you can also just get that on its own standalone without having to purchase the larger purchase.
I have a birthday coming up next year. You could, if anyone wants to get me this, I would consider that. I mean, you got me two sets. I'd like it even more. Anyway.
Yeah, smashed almost every single stretch goal that they have listed. Their stretch goals were like 30 stretch goals. Like every every stretch goal is more models. So.
I don't see a reason how they couldn't. I mean, you look at the quality of these minis, the sculpts. I mean, the paint job they showed on the left hand side that you've got up on the graphic there is fantastic. So I mean, I can't imagine not doing it this way.
Yeah, they're close to 3.25 million. So not the top end for a miniatures system that we've seen on some of the others, but still quite respectable. Over 6,000 backers, ends in 13 days. So if you want to get on top of this, you got to be in by Tuesday, April the 20th.
Okay. And then switching gears a little bit, all this stuff is great for playing with your friends, but now let's talk conventions a little bit.
Yeah,
we got some bad news and some interesting news, and then some bad news.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah,
we kind of saw the first one coming. PAX East won't be in Boston this summer. They have officially canceled PAX East, scheduled for June the 3rd through the 6th. It was canceled last week. Expected, however, in the interim, for the rest of the year, PAX, just the PAX family, PAX Online is expected to still be occurring July 15th through the 18th. And they also indicated that there's going to be an indie showcase similar to what Gen Con did that will be held sometime between now and then. No specific date for that listed yet. As well, later in the year, you've got PAX West out in Seattle. It's going to be the weekend of September 3rd through the 6th. That's still scheduled to be on, which is going to mean that September is going to have 3 major conventions in it now.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how much that's going to just damage each other as they all try to cannibalize from each other, because people are still going to have limited budgets. They can't attend all 3 of those at once.
Because if memory serves, Origins is going to be in September, PAX West is going to be in September, and Gen Con is going to be in September.
Yeah. That's going to be a tough fight for those convention dollars, I think. So,
And then PAX Unplugged in Philadelphia, still scheduled December 10th through the 12th. So,
anyone going to PAX online? If you are, hit us up in chat and let us know. I'd love to know what your feeling is on what are you going to PAX online for? What's going on with that? And now for some other bad news. Kind of not a surprise, but kind of surprised at how they couched it a little bit. So can you walk us through this one about Nova Open?
I mean, you say that it's not a surprise, but I think it is a surprise just because Nova Open is not scheduled or was not supposed to be scheduled to occur until September, which is interesting. That would have been another game in September.
Exactly.
But they have already canceled, and they state that they are unable to commit resources given the uncertainty surrounding the pandemic. Furthermore, its venue had no clarity on what large event restrictions will or will not be in place. This was supposed to be in Arlington, Virginia. Virginia, not exactly the most strict, but not exactly the most lenient, especially when it came to large group gatherings. So I could see it now, but I'm just still so surprised. But I guess it just had to do with money allocation, right? And it's different as most of the later it puts the event's financial stability in question. Some people are looking at one of the quotes was the executive board is faced with significant challenges as they readdress resources and imaginations to remain solvent until a March 1, 2022 registration launch, which would be their next income of capital. They even said, yeah.
It makes me wonder, what if they've been spending? I mean, like if perhaps they mean this, just to make the smart thing to remain solvent is to not run a convention. But the other thing they could mean is that they've kind of been spending money this whole time.
I've heard that Nova is not the most lucrative. There's not the most. They don't have a lot of money, is what I've heard in the past. Not just from this, but in general, like the cost of the cost of the location and everything.
Convention space is ridiculously expensive.
The cost of everything. They tend not to have a lot of over. It's not like Gen Con where they're just rolling in it.
But it's also the convention space and everything else, and they had a long way to go for their Nova Open has to be in Northern Virginia. Nova, right? Gen Con can go anywhere, theoretically, even though it used to be in Geneva, Wisconsin, which is why it was called Gen Con.
Yep.
It's kind of moved past that, right? They just don't need that anymore. The Nova Open will have to look at other venues in other places to reduce those costs. I just don't see that being something. I don't want to speculate too much on what's going on with the Nova Open. I hope they're able to make it. I think there's some great people over there. And I know there's a lot of good people who love going to that every year and being a part of that. So
are you surprised that they still have it in Arlington, one of the more expensive places in Northern Virginia?
I am. I think there's so many better places where they could have done that and done it cheaper. But at the same time, it's like there may be reasons for that we don't know, and the executive board, whoever that is, has to make decisions. Let's hope they make good ones and that they're able to keep the Nova Open running.
Yeah, they're gonna. It looks like they're gonna try to do some money ideas. Try to do some merchandise sale, which I don't know what type of merchandise you're gonna sell for Nova Open.
Ball caps. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not exactly like they're selling. It's not like they own a product or anything. Like it's just.
Yeah. Well, carrying on, that pretty much closes out most of our news for the night. Big thanks to Overhead Games for sponsoring the news tonight, as well as the entire show. Be sure and register for that contest by typing in !epic in chat to register for your chance to win a prize. Remember, you do need to be a follower to enter, and you must be present in chat to win when the prize is announced, and so that our people can get a hold of you to award it. All right. So, hey, we're going to take a quick, short 5-minute break. And when we come back, we're going to have Marc Schubert from Ice Cream Dice available to answer your questions and for us to interview as well. We'd love to get your questions. Make sure you get those into chat by typing question in all caps, and we will move forward shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be back, guys.
Boy.
Hey, we're back. Hey, everyone. Glad to see everybody. Excited to be back here. And I'm excited to be joined by Marc Schuler from Ice Cream Dice. Marc is one of those guys who really enjoys what he does and really enjoys the dice portion, as well as games in general. And is just an all-around great guy to talk to. We talked a little bit before the show just to kind of get things squared away. And I don't know that the only thing that stopped us from talking at that point was we both had to get off and handle some other business at the time. But one of those guys that we could just talk to forever. And then when the tech guy, our tech goblin Chet, found out it was you, he was just like, I love talking to him at what was it, Gen Con? YouTube?
We talked at PAX Unplugged.
PAX
that
Unplugged,
was where we missed each other at Gen Con. We tried and it just didn't happen. And then PAX Unplugged, there was a little pre-gathering with some folks that was like a few blocks. Well, everything was a few blocks from my hotel. And I went down and we chatted for hours. Like he is a golden human. That's what I'm going to say.
Well, you know, we like to think that Chet's awesome. He's been on a few things with us. So
yeah. Well, that's a nice copper mug.
Thank you.
I'm a little jealous. I'm rocking my wife's old from 2000, according to the base, McDonald's Disney cup.
Oh, well, you know what? I think you're keeping it classy. I think you are, my friend.
I am. I mean,
it is the happy hour. It is the Games Tavern happy hour.
That's true. I decide not to drink because I'm still gonna have to go back to parenting. So as much as I would like this to be my happy hour, I have to be responsible.
Here, let me help show you how to do things while I have impaired judgment. This will be great, kids. Watch this. Yeah.
Well, and he's already a risk taker. Like, we have this giant beanbag that our friends gifted us, and it's like 6 feet long and like 3 feet wide. Like, it's huge. So we set it up at the end of part of our couch, and he literally just like barrels down the couch and like head first, like flips or like jumps onto it. And like, he's not even 3. He's not supposed to understand the concept of a somersault, but like he biffs on it. For a while, he would be running down the hall, and then as soon as he hit it, just like deliberately tripping and falling onto it. It was so funny. Oh my goodness.
So talk to me about you. Like, so I think everyone should want to know, like, where in the world are you right now?
I'm in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, the northernmost metropolis in the world, because we're a city of over 1 million. We are also in the top 10 cities of the world for hours of sunlight, because even when it is minus 50 here, you will still see the sun, which is incredibly deceptive and as nice as it is, it's a little obnoxious because you're like, cool, it's sunny, and then you go back in your house and you don't leave for a week.
So at those kind of temperatures and at that, did you grow up there?
I did not. I grew up on, as we say in Canada, the wet coast, as Americans would know it, very near the Pacific Northwest. Like, I grew up in BC. I was an hour and a half. Yeah, actually, no, not even, like an hour from the Washington border. So we'd go down to Seattle a lot. So yeah, I grew up in a much more temperate climate, but it was gray and overcast, even sometimes in summer. And it wasn't until I'd been in Edmonton for a few years where I really realized the mental impact that living under gray clouds like all day, every day, pretty much really had on me. I was like, oh, I feel so much lighter here. Like, I don't feel like there was an apathy that I had. And to be fair, it's also where I finished high school. So, you know, being a teen, like, there's a little bit of that. Being a teen in the mid 90s, there was a little bit of that apathy that kind of flows anyways. So
especially in the Pacific Northwest, and any vicinity of Seattle during those days in the 90s was a pretty wild time. As well as Vancouver.
Yeah, I was an hour.
Yeah.
I was an hour from Vancouver. That was like the big city that I would go and visit. So many concerts, so many random good memories from that city. And it's one of the cities that a lot of people romanticize. And I always tell people, like, you literally couldn't pay me enough to live there. I love to visit. It is wonderful being by the ocean. Stanley Park is stunning. And it is just a city that is always busy, but in ways that I don't dig. Like,
oh, really?
It just feels like people are going from point A to point B kind of thing, versus like Edmonton. Oh man, I guess I'm gonna do a whole little bit of shout out to my hometown now, because this is home. But Edmonton's known as Festival City. We have so many festivals. I don't even know how many festivals Edmonton has, but we have like literally.
I'm getting the entire Edmonton history here, aren't I?
The Fringe Festival is the second longest running one in the world, I think. Or the second biggest one in the world, one of the two. And then we have some like really cool winter festivals. There was this really neat one called the Flying Canoe in the wintertime. And it was all these really cool artist designed lights, and like you're walking it on this like really dark forested path. Oh yeah, also our park system is actually bigger than Central Park. We have the largest connected park system in North America. We have 90 kilometers, which I will never walk or drive or bike or longboard or travel. But like, I don't know. Edmonton was a city that took me a long time to love. It really did. This was not where I thought I was going to like build a life, much less a business and everything else. And then I met my wife, and she found her dream job, and she's like, dude, I'm not moving for anything right now. And then we had our son and bought a house and started a business, and now it's,
welcome to Edmonton.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad I found a way to love it. And when I really looked, it wasn't that hard. One of the things I admire most about this city is the creative community. And this really is actually reflected in my business. So it does kind of tie into actually what we're talking about. There's a sense of collaboration here versus competition. Like if you go to Vancouver, Toronto, or some of the other big cities in Canada, almost anyone who's in a creative pursuit is essentially trying to carve a name for themselves. And sometimes that leads to doing things that are not necessarily the most savory or friendly, right? You kind of take people out so that you can get the job. And in Edmonton, there's just this weird work ethic and understanding that I have this expensive equipment, but I don't have the expensive equipment you have. So tell you what, you lend me your expensive equipment, we'll go film this thing. And then when you need my equipment, you give me a call and we'll share credit, and we'll share, like it's there's a neat sense of collaboration that really happens here. And I think part of it is in like environmental, because when you're cold and you're stuck, and it's like, it's a blue collar city. Calgary is our white collar other big city really in Alberta, which is 3 hours south of where I am. And I spent 7 years there. I've been here for
saying that Calgary, where the Winter Olympics were, is 3 hours south of you is something. That's saying something very serious. I mean, when you live in such a cold climate, you have to have an institutional group of people who growing up there, they all knew they had to count on each other to survive, right? And that's just carried on throughout the time of that city. It looks like, even when it's not as difficult.
Yeah, I think so. It's there's this one restaurant that back in November, when Edmonton's COVID numbers started spiking, they started just giving away free meals. Like you literally could just walk up. And I was reading an article in the last couple of days. Apparently since that time, they've given away 32,000 free meals. And like, that's the kind of stuff that really resonates with me and makes me proud to say I'm an Edmontonian versus, Edmonton's okay, but I'm looking to, move eventually. It's those are the things that really keep me grounded and rooted here happily.
I can see how that be the case. What about you specifically? So were you didn't grow up there, but you did move there. But when did you start getting the gaming bug?
My gaming story actually starts with a young man that I worked with autism. Before the recent diagnoses breakdowns, he would have been considered to have had Asperger's. Like, he was fairly high functioning, but his brain kind of stopped it. He was about a 16-year-old. So I mean, there's 16-year-olds aren't dumb, and at the same time, their brains operate differently from someone. When we started working together, he was 23. So he was into all these different fandoms, and I worked with him twice a week, and my whole job was to try and find something to take him out of his house and get him socializing a bit. So we looked at all these different groups that we could join, and we tried a few of them out, and none of them were a good match for him. And one day we went to his local game store, and I'm looking at their calendar of events, and they've got D&D 101 for beginners. And it brought back to my brain how social D&D was. Like, I hadn't played since I was probably 12. So, 30 years, well, not quite 30 years, but almost 30 years had gone. And we went, and I saw the impact that it had on him. And I was working at a very underfunded school at the time. And one of my fellow teachers invited me to, when he heard I played D&D, he invited me to play D&D with a couple of his former students after school. The next year he left, and I decided we needed a D&D club for our students. And we had a blast. And that is where the genesis, that is where the catalyst happened for Ice Cream Dice to exist. I realized partway playing with these kids that there was no way any of them were going to be able to afford, or their parents were going to be able to afford, to buy the necessary gear for them to go and play the game. And yes, I know people always love to say, you can get a whole bunch of it to print for free. You sure can. These are parents that didn't have printers or desktops or laptops. It would have cost them a full week's worth of groceries to buy the toner, right? So I did this GoFundMe, and a local free paper that's handed out like bus stations and transit stations did this brief little interview with me. So for the first 11 days of the campaign, I raised about $400, got some great donations locally, and was feeling pretty damn good. And after this article went up, I ended up including that when I did 8 interviews in 6 weeks. And it was like TV, radio. There were no other newspaper ones, but like it was, and all of a sudden the GoFundMe just blew up. And one of the things that I kind of left that group with was like, I really wanted to be able to make them custom dice. So as I put it, it's the rabbit hole I fell down and never came out of. As it was, I never did get a chance to make them dice or deliver them dice. But Tabletop Loot, so Dustin and Krista are amazing, and then Todd and Jesse from Die Hard Dice, both of them donated so many sets to what eventually became a non-profit of sorts. It was unregistered, but basically I ended up with so much stuff. Wizards donated, WizKids donated, and I ended up raising over $5,000. And I was like, okay, this is far bigger than I am. So I started putting together packs to give schools and to give some of the kids that were playing at school, so that the money that was so graciously given to me was used to further gaming in my own community. I sent out a few packages to the States, which was really great. Like, I had interest from as far away as Turkey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like it was this weird thing that just kind of really took off, and then I let it fizzle, because I ended up basically wrapping up what that was doing kind of into what Ice Cream Dice does. Like, I love having the opportunity to sponsor things. I can't always take every opportunity that comes my way, but you know, I've done some good things with some great people because they've just simply asked, you know, and like that's one of the things that I love, is giving back to the community that has put me in a position where I don't get to pay myself much every month, but I do get to pay myself enough that, you know, I don't have to get a day job outside of my house. And especially during COVID with a little one, I had no interest in going back to work for the school board this year.
Yeah. And what's also interesting is that you were able to do this in a way that it's still creative and exciting, and it still, you know, trails back to you starting, you know, to helping people. So you've done this pretty consistently as an initial start to help others, and you've continued to do well with that. And isn't it great how karma kind of turns back around for you?
It is. It's like when I kind of started, I was like, I have no idea what the response is going to be to my dice initially. And then I've never been able to do the business account, personal account kind of thing. Like, I know some people are really good at doing that. That's just never worked for me. You know, ideally, looking back now, what it was that with ADHD, there was no way I could focus on both. So I just decided right from the get-go, I'm like, this account is just going to be me, and people will take it or leave it. And, you know, some people have left, some people have decided that there are certain stances that I have that they're not in line with, and that's fine. To each their own. Shut up. Not you. Sorry, getting stupid notifications. I don't even know why I get Reddit notifications, because I don't do anything on Reddit. I hear my dice are on there occasionally, but
yeah,
they're
that's
not for me, you know.
Well, I tell you, so going back to, you know, you had mentioned that you were helping your friend with that was on the autism scale, and you knew that D&D was social, but had you played D&D before that moment?
Had you? Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so when did you start playing D&D?
I started playing when I was about 10.
10. Okay. So is that when you caught the gamer bug?
No. It
was much later with your friend.
Yes and no. Like, I always enjoyed playing games, but I never had people to play with for a very, very long time. And then we're going back almost 10 years ago. Holy shit. Anyways, so my best friend, he loves playing board games. And so we would spend a lot of time together on the weekends, and that is what we would do. We would just sit down, play board games. If we were both feeling kind of brain dead, because he likes heavier strategy, not necessarily strategy, but like he likes games where like you kind of need to know the rules to play them right. When we were feeling brain dead, we would just sit and play NHL. Like that was our jam. We just play hockey. But yeah, it was like when I saw how different D&D was in the 5th edition versus I think I probably played a D&D, you know, I was like, wow, this is very, very different. I love narrative focused games, like board game wise, I love it. And the idea of getting to go and sit with people for a few hours a week, and just get to chat without having to chat about ourselves was really quite nice. We ended up, because my friend had the place where we were playing had 3 very packed tables, so the auditory volume was too much for him. So eventually there was a group of us that splintered off and did our own thing. And then eventually I hosted, I ran a game from my house for a few months. my wife was pregnant at the time, and I ran it for a few months until after Damien had been born. And then I realized that I'm not a great DM. Like, it's just, I'm okay, but that's not what I particularly enjoy. There's a couple of adventures that I really love running, and there's a couple of styles that I love running. But what I was running at my own home wasn't it, you know. And so I let the table choose, like, do you want to call it a day now, or do you want to come back next week? Y'all are going to fight Tiamat, and then we're gonna break the group off, because I don't have the time, and my wife needs me to kind of be more available than I currently am if I'm playing for 3, 4, 5 hours, right? But yeah, like, I always say that, like, there's no nerd cred that I would really ever have, because I don't fall into any fandom. I mean, probably the closest thing would be like Batman. And even that, you know, I love Batman. Particularly,
who doesn't? Right?
Pardon me?
It's Batman. How could you not love Batman?
Well,
by the way, Bad Fapple mentions that he may or may not want to eat your dice. By the way, he's saying that.
I highly recommend not eating them. They honestly taste terrible. Like, I always tell people, don't eat them from a safety perspective. If you are really going to chomp on them, then please give me the number to your dentist, because I want at least a 10% kickback from your dental work that you're going to need to get done.
That's
and
the
also,
way to go.
When I had a mouthful for my first Kickstarter video, oh my God, like, we had to film it twice, because the guy who was filming me, my initial reaction, because I had never ever put them in my mouth, was so bad. He's like, dude, like, you can't have that facial expression on your sales video. I'm like, okay, dude. I'm like, all right. Shock's over, and then just like, oh, they're so gross. So gross.
So when did you just go from, I mean, now you're still playing currently, right? Like, you still play games and stuff like that. So you know, when did you go from, you know, playing and doing this, you know, this great, you know, service for others to help them get stuff, to being a dice maker? What was it that got you to that point where you just decided you were going to make dice?
It's so I looked at the dice that were out there. I looked at the dice that had been donated, and I realized that there was just I realized that there were so many people selling the exact same dice, just using different names. And now I do that too, right? Like, I've got my curated section on my site where I'm reselling dice that I buy wholesale. And like, I just kept seeing all these very aggressive names, and I didn't see anything that really evoked a lot of fun. Like, when I was looking at the dice sets, I'm like, none of these sort of scream out to me like, hey, having these dice will be fun. So I started looking to see if anyone had made ice cream themed dice, and I couldn't find anything. I mean, there's a couple of things out there. I'm not going to say that there's nothing, but there was very little. And so I said to my wife, I was like, I'm thinking about making a dice Kickstarter. Like I went on Alibaba, because I was looking at potentially buying a large lot of dice for the nonprofit. And then I saw custom dice. I'm like, how much, you know? So I reached out, I contacted them. I'm like, how much does it cost for a dice sample? And like, how much does it cost to get dice produced? So they came back with the numbers, and I decided that I was going to get Neapolitan, Mint Crit, and Orange Dream. Those are going to be the first 3 that I wanted to get done. They couldn't do Mint Crit the way I wanted. It took me almost a year actually to find a factory that would do the speckled chocolate. I went through 3 or 4 different companies, like middlemen, where I'm like, hey, can you do speckles? And they're like, nope. I'm like, if ChessX can do this, someone else can do this. Like, there's no way they have the lockdown on the speckles.
Mm-hmm.
So the first ones came, and I was like, these are actually pretty cool. So like I said to my wife, I'm like, thinking about doing a Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, okay. I'm like, how much of our money, right, family money,
Yeah. Yeah.
can I spend on this? And she goes, zero. And the reason for that was because I ran a failed Kickstarter in 2013
Mm-hmm.
for a craft coffee advent calendar that failed twice miserably. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but I took those lessons and I used them for ice cream dice. And she said no. So I'm like, how am I going to get more samples made? I need more than 2 or 3 designs to launch a Kickstarter. And then I got a significant bump up on my credit for my credit card. So that's what I used. And I didn't tell her for until probably about 6 months after the Kickstarter. I was like, sweetie, I got to come clean with you. The reason I was able to do this was because I got a bump on my credit card and I used that money to buy some samples. She's like, you are really lucky it was successful, otherwise I would have kicked your ass. I'm like,
Yeah.
fair. I'm like, and truthfully, I probably wouldn't have told you if it failed miserably.
So you have that kind of relationship. Okay.
Oh yeah. Well, honest, where you can be like, no, I probably would have fudged the numbers a little bit. Like I would have told her, but not as forthcoming as it was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It sounds like a great success was made, and now you're getting these dice down, and you're making success happen, and it just seems like kind of like one of those things where an unexpected success occurred in a way that has just been wonderful for a good human being, right?
Thank you. It's it has really felt like that. Like it like we were talking about karmic comebacks, and like this company did feel kind of like that, where it's like, okay, dude, like the universe sees that you're actually trying to bring something new and fun into the world, and you're doing it from an authentic and genuine place versus just a capitalistic, like, ooh, dice are hot, so I'm gonna make and sell dice. Like, yeah, it's.
Did you find the challenge of becoming a dice entrepreneur to be something that was becoming steadily more and more difficult, or more and more easy for yourself as you went on?
A bit of both. There was definitely so the initial parts, dealing with overseas stuff, like I felt really confident in the way that was going. And then my first Kickstarter dice came back, and a lot of them honestly were garbage. Like, I got the best ones sent out to my customers that I could, but it wasn't until I'd say about a month ago that I really could comfortably put a button on that Kickstarter. Like my team in China who did the fulfillment for me, they fulfilled 92% of that first Kickstarter in December 2019. So, and they were shipping from Wuhan. So it was just as COVID was kind of becoming a little bit more known. And a bunch of my packages got turned around at borders, and I've never seen them again. So like straight up just hundreds, if not potentially a few $1,000s worth of loss there. And then it took me almost 2 years to get that other 8% taken care of, whether it was replacing dice, entirely lost pledges, or and where things got easier was in the design aspect of things. Like when I got the mint crit and I was blindsided by a few things because I just kind of I'm a doer until it doesn't work. That's kind of I have no sort of danger warning in my brain where it's like, hey, this is maybe not the best idea. Like when it comes to physical safety, sure, but when it comes to like taking chances, whatever, if I can do it, I'm going to do it. So I didn't realize that I was starting an e-commerce business. Like anyone who has seen it knows that that's exactly what it's become in many ways, right? But I didn't recognize that. So mid crit, I did pre-orders, and there was a miscommunication between me and the factory that ended up leading to a 3-month delay in delivery of the dice to me, which meant a longer delay in getting them out to my customers. And then, but like certain aspects of it are, I don't want to say they're necessarily easier, but I kind of understand the restrictions for factory made dice better, is what I would say. So I can kind of design within those confines a little bit better. It's part of the reason why I started making dice by hand, is because there's things that I want to put out in the world in dice form that a factory simply can't do, or it would be cost prohibitive. I've made so many mistakes. I would say that, like, I'm going into my 3rd year of business, and I'm nowhere near perfect. I still make mistakes, but I think where I've done well is by being incredibly transparent and brutally honest with people when I screw up. You know, where it's just like, you know what, I made this mistake because I dislike, and that's a light word to use, companies that hide behind other things rather than just being like, you know what, I fucked up. Like, I'm a human. I'm one person running an entire business that, you know, from the outside, I know the perception of what ice cream dice is sometimes very skewed for people versus what it is, which is me in my office when I can survive it, the basement or the living room. Like, I work out of my house. And so, yeah, like, have things gotten easier? Yes, I've learned more, and some of those lessons I've managed to retain them and not repeat mistakes is kind of been the nice thing.
Well, that's good. That's good. And the transparency is a huge part of who you are. And you know, we can feel that in that conversations with you, even offline and currently now as well. So, you know, I think that's especially as a small business, that's the one thing that you have to have. And I think every business should have a transparency, at least, you know, with their clients and explaining what's going on and stuff.
Like some sort of level, you know, like, I don't need to see behind the curtain for every business that I do business with. Absolutely. And like, if something screws up, just tell me. I mean, I know I'm a lot easier going than some people, but like, I see these horror stories on Twitter with like bad customers and bad clients, especially right now around shipping, right? Like, people are like, oh, it's taken weeks to get to me. Yeah. And
well,
I mean,
I mean, like, if you haven't figured out, like, the port in LA is backed up all to get out, you know.
One of the big things that a lot of people don't understand, or I'm not going to say they don't understand, they simply don't know, is that a ton of small packages are typically shipped on passenger planes in extra cargo space, right? So if there's no luggage, they take a 3x3 box and they shove it with whatever they can, and they get a courier rate. Well, for the majority of COVID, there was a small percentage of planes that were still flying, passenger planes, right? So that, like, and here's the thing is, I mean, there's times where I have the best of intentions to get someone out a package, you know, that week or next week, and then it doesn't happen for 2 or 3 weeks. Like, it slips in my mind, it falls down my emails, whatever happens, you know, it just, I struggle with keeping track of things. And because I get messages from Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and email, it becomes difficult for me sometimes to coordinate those things. I've actually, just this week, I've hired someone to kind of help me keep those things straight, because I'm tired of having to apologize because I'm not delivering on something I said to a person I would. You know, like, I hate that feeling, and I also accept that it's part of being a small business.
Yeah. Well, also that transparency hopefully garnered some goodwill, and as people do
It
learn
has.
that.
I've always said that my customers, my backers from both Kickstarter campaigns, but particularly the first, their grace and patience with me is unparalleled. Like, I could not have asked for a better few thousand people to back me, because even when things were going absolutely haywire and everything was screwing up, they'd be like, thanks for telling us, keep at it. It just, yeah.
I'm watching chat as they chat is discussing about all your dice now that they know who you are and they're checking you out. And they're like, oh, I want the pint of dice. And
Yeah.
people are like, but I don't know that I should buy them all those dice. And everyone's in there going, yes, you do. The pint of dice is awesome. You definitely need all those dice.
Yeah. I'm seeing that.
And Dirt Track Chick is saying we're all enablers, and we're saying, yep.
Yeah.
Everyone's agreeing. Yes.
So here's what I'll say if you're thinking about the pint.
Uh-huh.
You're getting roughly 100 dice. So if you break that down into 11-piece sets, which is mostly what I sell, you're almost getting 10 sets, which normally go for $12.95 to $17.95 a piece for $75. Now, I'm not saying it's in everyone's budget. There's a reason that the pint is the pint. But if you want a sampling of virtually almost all my dice, that's a good place to start. And you probably won't need to buy a single thing from me for at least a year.
Well, that's always a plus when you can do it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. And everyone's now saying they're going to buy the dice. It looks like they're all saying you're a great salesman. So way to go. And look at that. Yeah. We you came onto a show to find out about you, and you're already selling dice on the show. So it's not like you're doing.
I will happily take it, because the only way I'm ever going to get to design and release more dice is if people buy dice. Like, that's
isn't that always the way?
It is. Yeah, I've got some samples in the process of being done that I'm pretty excited about. I'm not going to talk about them.
Don't reveal it if you're not ready to.
No, but they're ice cream themed. I mean, I have mentioned them on Twitter, so if you dig far enough down, you'll find them, because I'm terrible at keeping my mouth shut about ideas.
You mentioned Die Hard Dice and some other dice companies that pitched in and helped you out.
Yes.
How's your relationship with other dice companies, or do you talk to other dice makers and stuff like that?
You know what? I worked really hard at the beginning at cultivating a community of collaboration and uplifting. So there are some dice companies that I simply would never work with or do business with, and I'm not going to bother talking about them.
Okay. And that's good. Please don't.
Yeah, almost every time I talk about other dice companies, it's a love letter to Die Hard Dice and Tabletop Loot.
Both of which we are big admirers of as well. Die Hard Dice in particular, because they actually just signed on. They're the most recent sponsor for our charity streams. They're one of the sponsors.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. They are authentic, genuine, amazing human beings. And they started out of their garage, and the way when I talk about the dice company I want to grow up to be, it is Die Hard Dice. Like, when you buy their stuff, you get this awesome personalized note. You usually get a couple of extras. You get great designed, high quality dice, and you're supporting this wonderful family that loves to give back to the community. Tabletop Loot is the exact same. Dustin and Krista are freaking phenomenal. They're
out of Kansas, aren't they?
They sure are. They do their gift of learning drive every year, where basically every time you buy a set of dice, they donate a set of dice to a school group. So
Mhm.
that was when I started the nonprofit. I basically came onto Twitter under my old account, and basically hit up every single dice company I could find. I had no idea how big or how small, right? Once again, perception, you
Mhm.
know, and like everyone jumped on, and there's so like, God, there's so many dice makers I love. Greenleaf Geek, Leah has been a friend, a supporter, and we play weekly together, which is awesome. Um,
Oh.
oh yeah, Aaron from Evelyn's Workshop does
Uh-huh.
wonderful stuff. Then there's Bex from Evergreen Burrow, Ms. from Ritual Cast, who's V from Dice Y. Then there's like my semi-local homies, Ethereal Dice. Oh
Mhm.
God. So I worked,
You're spoiled for dice choices of great people to order from.
yeah, and like honestly, at the end of the day, I don't have money to buy all the dice I want. And sometimes that legitimately breaks my heart because I really want to buy things for my friends.
So are you a serious dice goblin?
No, actually, surprisingly not. And it's because I have over 10,000 sets in my basement, right? Like,
That pretty much makes you a dice goblin of the high. That makes you the dice goblin
yeah,
king
but the
in
thing is, those
some
dice I
places.
want out of, like my own personal collection. Um, it just kind of, my own personal collection evolves with like what comes in. Flaming Flamingos / Wild Earth Dice. He's also great. He persevered on his Roll Your Fate uh Kickstarter, which was his first dice Kickstarter.
Mhm.
I do Kickstarter consultation behind the scenes. Oh yeah, Lindorm Dice. They were some of my first Kickstarter dice babies. Roll Your Fate was another one. Like, I love working with people to bring their dreams to life, to like go for that, to take that shot. And
Mhm.
I've learned so much doing two Kickstarters that like I always tell people, if they want to talk to me about the way I work, it is similar to like the media version of a drug dealer. So
Mhm.
I always tell them, your first email to me is free. Fill it with any question you could possibly want. I will answer all of them to the best of my ability, and I will probably over answer. After that point in time, if you see value, then we can talk about compensation, because my time is valuable.
Mhm.
That being said, if you need clarification on some of those answers, I will be happy to do so. Like, and it's great because I just want, like, I just want to see people take their shot and go for it. I mean, the great thing with Kickstarters is like I get to work with some awesome people like Talon and Claw for my boxes,
Mhm.
Friendly Neighborhood Dungeon Mom. I worked with them on the dice bag for the first one, the stickers for the Pride one. Like, it just, I get to work with these wonderful people, and do these really cool things that if you would have told me even 5-6 years ago that this conversation would happen, I would have been like, yeah, sure, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
you going back to your Kickstarter, I mean, like your first Kickstarter failed
my very first Kickstarter that
twice.
I ever launched failed twice. Yep.
Yeah. And how did how did that I mean, at the end of something like that where you put your heart and soul into something, and I'm sure you did, and you hit failure, was that rough for you, or did you just pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and go, well, that didn't work? How did that work?
Both, both. So the first time it failed, so I tried to launch it twice within the same year.
Mhm.
Here's a free Kickstarter based tip for almost anyone who ever wants to launch one. July is typically the best month because statistically that's when people have the most disposable income. So, and also because I was releasing an advent calendar, I also had to get the calendars produced and buy all the coffee and get it all packed up and ready to go. Right. So I was like, I need to launch this in July. It should give me enough time to get it all out in time. And it's how much, I don't even remember how much I hit the first one. I think I had a ridiculously high goal too. Um, I think my goal was something like 60,000. Like, it was insane because I literally had no money or nowhere to get money to put into it. So I had to fund it literally all through Kickstarter. So it sucked, but I recognized where my mistakes were. Like, I launched a new Twitter account as I was launching the Kickstarter, which was dumb, right? You want to build up that following ahead of time. You want to build those relationships, and you want people to get to know the person behind the brand a little bit before you go and ask them for their hard-earned money.
Right.
And like, because it failed, I didn't get to learn what happens when you have a successful one, because the lessons that come after you're successful are fast and furious, and if you don't pick them up quick, you're going to have some glaring errors. So the second time I ran it, it did even worse, and I think I ended up canceling it partway through because I was just like, the first time I was in that like push promote mode, which is not how I like to be in general. And I felt gross about it, but I was like, maybe if I just push it right, like maybe if the right person sees it and tweets it out or whatever, like it'll bring that attention. And second time I ran it, it was tracking less money in the same time frame than it did the first time, so I just canceled. I'm like, clearly this is not going to work. In retrospect, I'm grateful that it didn't work, because I would not have been prepared, and I would not have been able to deliver the product that I was promising. The other mistake that was made with that one was that I had already partnered with a few different Canadian craft coffee roasters, and I was expecting them to share to their Twitter following and their Instagram following, and none of them did. So there's another lesson: don't rely on other people to market your shit. Like, just don't. But what I learned from that was show people the product, which has also come to bite me in the ass. I have been jacked and beaten to the punch on both my Kickstarters by other companies. But that's what happens when you have the money to just kind of like continually produce things, which I'm hoping that by year 5, maybe I'm in that spot where I can have a regular release schedule. Like, if I would have been smart, I would have done things the way Die Hard Dice did them, which was they started as a reseller, built up their inventory, built up their relationship with the factory they were working with. At least I think this is how it went. Hopefully,
this sounds about right for most people who are doing this.
And then they banked a bunch of money, and then start coming up with their own designs, and like they haven't really looked back since. And like it's been so great for me to see their success. One of my pride and joys actually is so Jessie from Die Hard Dice loves candy corn, and she loved my candy corn set. So when we met at Gen Con, I brought her a set, and I wasn't expecting anything in return because I don't, right?
Yeah.
She gave me a hand-painted candy corn metal D20 that she made custom for me.
Oh,
and
wow.
like every single face is painted like a candy corn, and it is awesome. Like, it is,
wow.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I wasn't expecting it, and Todd and I at that point in time had talked a bit more than Jessie and I. Like, Jessie and I now talk semi-regularly, but we'd had enough conversations, and like I had a good enough conversation with them a couple of times throughout Gen Con that I got to know them quite decently, right? Like, they told me things about their family that aren't necessarily common knowledge or anything like that, and like those are the cool things where it's like you're sharing your heart and your home with me versus like, let's just talk dice, you know?
Right,
And
right.
that's
They're human.
what I love. Oh man, there's so many good dice makers. Dice Witchery's doing some really cool shit. Oh god, like
I'm just surprised at how many dice makers are out there that, you know, now that you're naming them all, I'm just in shock
it's
that
hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and like part of it is guaranteed COVID, right? Like lockdown, because the investment into making resin dice can be manageable for most people.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm an idiot from time to time. I've spent way more money. I've invested way more money to making my own dice than probably 9 out of 10 dice makers out there.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I learn by doing, and I learn by making catastrophic mistakes. So, you know, but yeah, like Dice Witchery is great. Thornless Rose is wonderful. Oh God, there's so many, and like the one of the coolest things for me is that so many of these people have shared tips with me and offered to help me out and give me advice. Like I've really found myself in a community of, in many ways, my dreams. There is some nastiness. There always is some dirty, shitty human beings on the planet. And it breaks my heart when I see my friends get hurt, or even people I casually know, because we don't, if we could all just like, if the assholes could just stop being assholes for a little bit, I think we'd all be happier, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a common statement around the world these days. So,
yeah, like just quit being a dick, you know?
Yeah.
There's no need.
So from transitioning from these failed Kickstarters that you did and picking yourself up, dusting yourself off, and meeting some folks later on and learning some lessons there, when you transitioned back to dice, how much anxiety did you have? I mean, yeah, you did get the credit card bump that you mentioned earlier, but for you, was there a lot of anxiety, or was this a little easier to take in based on the different way you were approaching it?
It was a little easier because instead of trying to wrangle 8 different producers, well, okay, to find and wrangle 8 different producers and 3 different products from each of them, I was going with my own product. And where I made one of my biggest missteps, and my wife called me out on it early on, even before it happened. She said, dude, like you should really only release 5 designs at most. And the way my first Kickstarter went, it was 8 designs and 2 finishes, so 16 designs in total. On Twitter, the calls and the cheers for mat sets was so huge that I decided to offer it. On the back end of things, Glossy outsold mat 5-1. So, and the thing is, when you're mass producing, you have a minimum order quantity that you have to order. So, you know, I have hundreds and hundreds of sets left over because there was the Rainbow D10 set. I sold 27 thereabouts-ish through the Kickstarter, which meant I had to order it. I had to order 400 sets. Like that's not an insignificant investment to honor the words and honor the deal that I made with 27 people, you know? And like that's where, so going back to it, like running the dice Kickstarter was a lot more straightforward because I had samples, you know. I knew who I was working with. I knew that fulfillment was going to be the biggest hurdle, so I got that taken care of first. Unfortunately, the day before my Kickstarter ended, one of the partners of my fulfillment team called me and said, "Hey, dude, you need to bail. because I did some things and I'm getting lambasted, and you don't want your name anywhere near us, which he did shitty things. And I can respect someone who has who holds himself accountable enough to be like, dude, you've done really well. You've got this good thing going, and I don't want to fuck it up for you. But it left me scrambling, which ultimately led to this whole new wave of discovery. So D and Dice from the UK, Grady runs that. And he reached out to me and he's like, dude, if you need someone to help you in the EU, ship your stuff, let me know. Todd from Die Hard Dice was like, I don't know if we can help you in the States, but let me know, and I'll see what we can do. And like, I had all these people who are just like literally coming to be a safety net for me, that like Grady and I had never even interacted really. We'd had a couple of conversations briefly, but that was about it. Todd and I had obviously had an established relationship, but it was before we got to really hang out in person for a little bit and like see eye to eye, literally, and it was just awesome. Oh, we're gonna get a kiddo visit.
Oh, hey, family just arrived. All right.
Do you want here? Say hi to Reid.
Hey.
Okay, and now wave to everybody there that's in chat. Go, hello. Can you say hi?
It's good to see you. What's your name?
Who are you? Oh,
he was.
There's pine cones and bent bottle caps. But yeah, so
Well, just so you know, some of the folks in chat just ordered some dice. Phoenix Iwaki, I'm gonna butcher this. Phoenix Iwaki just ordered the Kiwi set and wanted to let you know.
So fun story about the Kiwi set is the Kiwi set was a misfire on Mint Crit. Well, I don't think we're supposed to open that yet. That's for Roro, right?
It's us too.
Oh, that's Roro's tooth? Oh, thanks, dude. Let's see this.
It's so wonderful meeting your family too.
They're the reason I get to do what I do and also get, holy smokes. Cats like canine teeth are really long. I'm not going to show this on camera in case people get grossed out by teeth, because I know some folks do.
Come on.
But here, D, do you want to take Roro's tooth down?
Hey, roll for Alex. Good to see you. Thank you for the stream. We're just wrapping up our interview with Marc Schubert from Die Hard Dice. We're talking nerdy stuff and tabletop games and stuff like that. So Thank you so much for the raid. Thank you, Phoenix Iwaki, for the sub. Love having you guys here. So you shifted into this Kickstarter. You did make it work. You did hit the final stuff, but you still got great amounts of stuff that you can still move. At least you have available. That's awesome.
Like the disappointing part was that so to give people just like a super quick lifeline of a dice line from a mass production standpoint is you order your samples, you tweak those until they're what you want. Then your assumption is going to be that is going to be what's produced. So when you finally put in your order, they typically send you some production samples versus like the quick and dirty ones that they do to show you that the concept works, right? So my proof of like my production samples were awesome. They were so good. So I was like, yeah, let's go forward with all this. And then there was just so many issues. And like the two sets that took the biggest hits from issues were the two top sellers.
Oh, really?
And yeah, it was Neapolitan with a ton of layer bleed, and then Kiwi. So the Kickstarter version of Kiwi had yellow numbers simply due to like the original version, because it was meant to be mint chocolate chip, had brown numbers. but the production version had yellow because the legibility of the brown numbers on the dark transparent green was low. Like it was hard to read them, but some people loved them. And yeah, so all my dice get shipped to my guys in Wuhan, and they go through it. And one of the things that I learned from the process there was that I should have sent them a quality guide. I should have had them send me a few dozen sets, even like 50 sets of each design, to go through myself and like essentially put together a quality guide, like send this out, don't send this out, right? And I would have guaranteed seeing some of these issues. The other big hit that I took after that was getting other dice produced. One of my suppliers got hacked and they spoofed the emails between us and them, and I got robbed for $24,000, which is why there's very few new releases coming from me, because that was still is a significant hit. At the time, it didn't feel super huge because I had a nice hefty bank account that was like already set aside for other things, right? Like it was, shipping and doing these things and stuff. But I was like, okay, like I've still got everything to cover what I need to pay, which coming from a family that survived off of welfare, sometimes that's really what you look at, is like, do I have enough money to pay the things that I need to pay? And you feel like a huge achievement if you've done that without going into debt.
Right.
But yeah, like the biggest difference was that it was from a product point of view, it was get the samples, show the samples, put them up on Kickstarter, let people do what they're going to do, and then get them produced and ship them out, right? And like I had all those bases covered. And then COVID hit, and then I got hit, with $24,000 in loss, and poorly made designs that the factory never acknowledged. So
at some point, I've had dice sent to me when I had a game shop. We had not too many, but we did get a few sets of dice that had like a warp D6 that was like a rhombus instead of a cube.
Yeah. Or the infamous Chessex sunken faces on, right? Like
or had them actually cracked. Those happen to occur. But the color bleed typically happens when you don't give the resin time to cure.
Well, and what I found out, sorry, how much longer can you talk? Because if we need to
we go until we're done. So
Sweet.
You're good.
Okay. So one of the things I learned with the Pride sets is because they're all layered flags, the asexual set, I ordered 1,500 sets because it was the second highest seller. And out of those 1,500 sets, I've had to go through every single set. So 1,500 times 11 dice, whatever that is, that's well over 100,000 dice, or 10,000. No, I don't know. Doesn't matter. Anyways,
it's a lot of dice.
It is. And I have managed to pull, it's okay. Long story short, it's had a 70% fail rate where like it does not. So I had to reach out to my factory, and I was like, this just doesn't work. I need you to make me 1,000 more sets that are not doing this. And they came back to me with, well, we use poly resin, it's hot and sometimes it bleeds. And I'm like, then just let it cure. Just like, and in a mass production state, I can imagine that is very difficult, because essentially you're asking them to stop running the factory and the machinery for a little bit. I would assume.
Well, from my perspective, is they agreed to produce a product with a certain quality level, and they're the ones who quoted the price,
and they failed. And almost all my other dice from them have been perfect. Like they're like, it's the same company that did my float line, that did my candy corn. they've done they actually did a redo of Neo, which I still haven't put up on the site yet because I'm just dragging my feet on that stuff. But like, so when you're talking to handmade dice makers, we use an epoxy resin, which is and we have the time most of the time to let it cure. And I think that's why you can get some really nice crisp layered dice from handmade dice makers, and a lot of them don't do it because it is time consuming, right? Like if you want to let it cure really, really well, you're giving it 12 to 24 hours minimum, and ultimately that's eating up your mold time, which is eating up your production time. And there's still a lot to be done. Like, yeah, the Pride Kickstarter went way smoother. I made some pretty.
You learned some lessons there too before you went in.
Yeah, like I learned a ton of lessons from the failed one. I learned even more from being successful, because for over a year I had the highest funded Canadian-based dice Kickstarter. Oh shit. Can't remember their name right now, but it was a handmade dice company out of Calgary that actually dethroned me. So if any of you are watching right now, congratulations, and I'm coming for you at some point in time. I want my throne back. It's about as competitive as I get, and honestly, I don't care. But yeah, like with the Pride one, it was that was an interesting one because at the time I hadn't really realized that I was demisexual, much less come out. And I got a lot of flack because there is a particular well-known Pride dice maker out there already based in the States. And a lot of people are like, you're just copying their designs. Well, first off, they're flags, so no one's copying anyone's designs. Like, you're not going to do the American flag in green, orange, and white, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know, so, and then there was also you're straight, you're hetero, you're cis, like, et cetera, et cetera. And what a lot of people didn't know was that before these dice were ever seen publicly, I approached friends of mine and personally asked them, I'm like, I'm thinking about doing this because I love the Pride community. The Pride community has been a part of my life for a very, very long time. And for me, it also is it's like a throwback to my mom. So when my mom was younger, when she was in her 20s or so living in Germany, the only people she ever really felt safe with was this wonderful group of gay people that she hung out with, and she loved them. Like, it was mostly gay men. And she's like, they were great dancers. They knew how to order me a good drink, and I felt safe because she's like, well, okay, one hit on me once, but and like, I giving people a way to represent themselves or share a part of themselves without having to necessarily verbally explain it, is like, it's this huge honor. And I was so happy that I was embraced by a lot of people, and a lot of people saw that I was coming out of it, or I was coming into it even before I was necessarily part of the rainbow, right? It's like I hadn't realized I was. Where, like, they embraced me, they welcomed me, and ultimately, when you're buying any product, it doesn't matter whether it's a car or whether it's dice, you can choose where to spend your money. And I'm never going to tell you to not spend it somewhere. I mean, there's certain companies that I would prefer you give your money to over other companies, but that's how it is with everything, right? Like, I don't know. I'm not
So you actually did your homework, but people didn't realize it, and they started trying to
I totally did my homework
bit.
behind the scenes. I made sure that I wasn't interested in being gay for capital, right? Like, you know, every June you see all these different companies with their rainbow promotions and their pride promotions, and some of them are authentic and they get lost in the sea of performative inclusion, you know. And I didn't want, more than anything, I could have handled if it failed. If people understood that I was coming from a genuine place of inclusion and not interested in just making money. Like, I have no issues making money, but that's never been and never will really be my focus. Like, I want to make cool shit, and I want people to like either feel like my dice are like speak to them or speak about them, or I want my dice to make people laugh or remember like good childhood memories. It's one of the main reasons why I started with ice cream, because I was like, what is one thing that almost everybody on the planet, you know, if they're privileged enough to live in a place that has ice cream and can afford it, right? But like most people have a good memory connected to ice cream. And like someone on Twitter, I don't know if they ended up in chat, they're like, if I get in there, I'm going to ask you like, what's the worst flavor of ice cream that you would ever make dice of? I already did. It was my first one. It was Neo. I hate Neapolitan ice cream.
Do you really?
I never liked it, but it is such a classic, and it is like,
it is an ice cream staple. Like if you're going to do ice cream dice, to not do Neapolitan just doesn't seem right.
I couldn't not do it. And like, to me, it was almost like an inside joke with myself where it's like, I hate this ice cream, but it looks good. And like the other things, I like trying to bring colors into my dice that are typically not used well. Like, I feel like there's not a lot of good brown dice out there or a lot of good orange dice. And like, I love brown. One of the things that made me happiest was when I started sharing your favorite set from the first one. People were like, how did you make like a two-tone brown ice cream that doesn't actually look like shit? I'm like, because I worked at it. Like, I made sure to take, and then like root beer float's another good one. I love the float series. I still have 4 more colors that I want to do before that one's completely, before I'm going to be satisfied and can kind of like put a button on and be like, okay, I've rode the float train long enough. But yeah, like it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
It's just like, for me, it's a lot of fun to take things in the world and kind of go, how can you deconstruct this into dice? Like, I'm sure there's dice designers out there that like 3D model their shit and like have this like working composition. I don't even draw or write anything down. I just literally like, I just go, okay, what colors do I need to hit? And there's a bit of a learning curve. Here's one of the funny things for anyone who's considering getting dice made in China or anywhere else from a mass production scale. So they use Pantone colors. That's how they kind of try and determine like what your color is going to be. But they use the Pantone color book that's typically used for graphic design. So you're trying to pick a color typically meant for paper on a screen, which only shows you RGB. So you're trying to convert that into CMYK, the 4-color process. And then you're hoping that that color translates into plastic. So there's this really kind of interesting color learning curve. Like, I've learned with me, my colors for my dice, I need to pick them typically 2 shades brighter or 2 shades darker than in the Pantones to get what I actually want. Yeah. And then like, I've had my flubs too. Like, I've had the samples that have just never worked. Like the original mint crit, those ones are often referred to as goblin snot because they were hideous. And the factory
goblin snot is fantastic. You can sell the hell out of that.
I actually did have the intention, and I still kind of do, of starting a sister business called Goblin Dice. I think I still actually have that Twitter, which is hilarious because I'm sure there's a lot of dice goblins that would kill for that right now. So it's for sale. Just kidding, I'm not selling it. But the factory hated it because what they did was they made miniature brown dice, crush them up, and then drop them into like this horrid green resin. And like pieces of them were like literally like poking out the faces a little bit. Like they broke some of the molds at the factory. I was not they were not a fan of mine. Like those ones, what were they going to charge me? They're going to charge me like almost a retail level price to get those dice on a wholesale level, because they're like, dude, we're going to go through so many molds just trying to make these dice for you. And but yeah, like, and then my Superman, I tried making Superman ice cream, but I couldn't get the blue. That rich bright tone is a tough one to catch. I think ultimately it's going to be one that I try and do by hand, because I know I can mix the colors at home and do it. I've considered Moon Mist. I know it's a regional favorite, but it's like purple, pink, and blue. Or no, sorry, not purple, pink, and blue. It's purple, yellow, and blue. It's like, I don't know.
Look at all this. I mean, like, you are just a wealth of dice creativity.
Fun and weird, and like, I love sharing it because I don't see other dice companies as competition. Like, I'm not friends with all of them, and I don't have to be, and I don't want to be. But like, ultimately, it is up to the consumer where they're going to spend their money, and I'm never gonna judge someone on where they want to do that, because I get it. Like, my dice are not for everybody. They're for a lot of people, and you know, I just really wanted to break away from the designs in the first one that were just like, I don't know. I was getting, the way I put it is that like my first line in many ways wasn't particularly original. It was swirl, like 2-color swirls and 2 3-layer dice. Where I happened to excel was I went in full force with a theme, and I committed to it, because that's literally what I wanted to do, was make dice that looked good enough to eat. But achievement unlocked on that one pretty early on. But like, you know, Kickstarters are weird, especially if you so there's two particular sites, so Bigger Cake and Kick Track, where you can look up campaigns and you can kind of see where they're projected to go. So one of the funniest things is if you start a Kickstarter and it does really well the first day. So both of them funded the first day, but my first one, that night I'm looking at like where it's projected to go, and it's like well over $1 million Canadian. I'm like, yeah. And then like 3 days later it starts dropping, and it's like, you know, 300, 400,000. And then like, you know, time goes, and like, so it's one of the things, if you want to run a crowdfunding campaign, don't believe your own hype. Like, just and if you want to run a Kickstarter, seriously, do your research on Kickstarter, because they give you so much information for free. Like, you literally, almost all the questions I get asked can be actually answered just by going through Kickstarter. So like, one of my favorite things is like, what should my numbers be? Well, you want to hit 1/3 or more of your campaign in the first week. Your second and third week, if you're running a 30-day campaign, which is the best one to run statistically. If you're running a 4-week campaign, your second and third weeks are going to suck. They are just going to be fucking terrible, unless you're something crazy like Gloomhaven or Frosthaven, or like those big things where you have people clamoring. And in that second and third week, you're going to feel this pressure of like, oh shit, I gotta push it. No, pump the brakes. Don't be afraid to promote yourself, but don't slam it down everyone's throat, because ultimately you're going to turn some people off. People will cancel their pledges. Don't worry about it, especially these days. Like everyone I've talked to who's run a campaign has experienced like a massive slew of cancellations, and It's because typically for nerdy, geeky tabletop stuff, the biggest market is the States, right? And you guys have had a rough time with economics and finances and, you know, shitty stimulus checks. I mean, stimulus checks are great, but it's still not enough to really cover what people actually need, you know? So people go in with the best of intentions, and then life happens and they have to cancel. So like if people cancel pledges, don't be hurt, don't be offended. It just like,
A lot of it's also chasing shiny objects.
yeah,
You know.
right? Like, you know, there's a lot that goes into a Kickstarter. There's a lot more that comes after. Like one of the biggest lessons I learned from my first one was not updating people until I had information to, like, concrete information to work from. My first one, I updated pretty much every time the wind changed to different direction.
Oh, which had to drive your people nuts.
In my efforts to be transparent and honest, I didn't consolidate my information into something that was really usable. And like I changed things so many times without meaning, well, sometimes mean to, like different forms that I need people to fill out if they didn't get a pledge or replacements. Like I was really all over the place, and I really was just trying to like share literally everything. And now with the current campaign, I've done a significantly better job at not throwing out updates all the time. I'm trying to like only put them out when there's relevant information to share. Whether that's pictures, like when Talon and Claw finished some of my boxes, right? Share that.
We're big fans of Talon and Claw, by the way.
Pardon me?
We're big fans of Talon and Claw. Anthony over there is a great guy.
Anthony is a great dude. Yeah. It's been awesome working with him. I don't even remember who it was anymore, but someone got us connected, and basically it was when I was in Spiel in Germany. I was looking at another well-known company stuff, and I was like, I could never afford this. Like I could never justify spending this kind of money on this product. And this person was like, oh, you should talk to Talon Claw. And Anthony made me one of his vaults and then one of the dual hex vaults for free. Like he's just like, here, dude. Like, and I ended up, I have a hard time just accepting things. So I ended up sending him some dice in trade. Like I absolutely love trades. Like it's one of my favorite things to do. And that's where we started working together. And in my first one, Dogmite Games actually came to me and was like, hey, we'd like to make boxes for your Kickstarter. And yeah. And not knowing what I know now, you know, I was like, oh my goodness, like Dogmite wants to work with me. Like I felt like a baller straight up, right? I was like, holy shit. They did great boxes. They were wonderful to work with. And like they're great people. And I like working with different people when I can, right? Like I don't always want to stick with the same people, because I meet more and more people as time goes on, and there's people that I want to bring with me basically for the ride. So Anthony was one from Talon and Claw. Tim from Staff and Branch does killer work, and it's so different from Anthony, so I don't mind talking about them kind of in the same breath. But like Tim does phenomenal work. Have you seen stuff, Staff and Branch? Yeah, like he made me a custom Neo box, because like Neo is my brand. I've just embraced that, and I love it, because it constantly makes me chuckle, which was the goal of my dice, right? It's like, I guess I'm pink, brown, and white now. Like that's just what it is. And but yeah, like the nerdy sphere is just, there's so many people doing these really cool things that like I can't even fathom how you do. Like people that paint minis, like Chet. I'm just like, I don't even get that. Or like Lee with his butts and his mini painting, and then oh god, there's so many people that just do like this.
Chet's already asking you to come paint minis with us.
You know, I should actually just send the box like of unpainted minis I have in my basement to Chet and just be like, send me
he will take
half
care of you.
painted.
Chet's great for that.
Yeah,
But
it's
let me kind of interrupt here for a moment. If there was one thing, and this is the last question of the night, if there's one thing that you want people to know about ice cream dice, in a very short order, what is the one thing they should know about ice cream dice?
It's run from a place of passion for the community. I'm not perfect. I will make mistakes. I will continue to do so, and I will live with that, and I'm okay with that. But like, I'm a human being and my DMs are open. I don't care if we've never talked. If you're having a shit day and you feel like I'm the stranger you want to talk to, hit me up. Seriously. I love selling things because that allows me to do things like this, and that allows me to make more dice. That's it. It is a means to a very simple end. But the core of this started in a group with kids. Mm-hmm. And that is still the beating heart of this business, is the community and the good that RPGs, TTRPGs can be for people. They allow us to spend time, tell stories, get out of our real life for a bit. Mm-hmm. You know, like I love hearing stories where people are like, I didn't realize I was this until I started playing RPGs, and I kept making characters like this, and I realized that it was just a reflection that I hadn't seen yet of myself, you know? Yeah, like really?
That's pretty cool.
It's super cool.
And that's ice cream dice.
It really is. Like it's me. I mean, all the rambling in this conversation, but you know, like I love my fellow dice makers and dice designers. And I love the community. Like I've never had a community that I called home until I found this one. And wow. I was super nervous to make my first entry into it with a product shot of the original Neo samples, right? Like it was kind of like, here goes, let's see what people think, send, and then it's like, oh, you know. And like one of the things that I struggle with from on Twitter mostly is that there are some OG people that have been with me from the get-go, and like one of the struggles when you get an account that becomes as big as mine is that you cycle through so many people in your timeline that sometimes, I don't want to say you lose people, but you forget to contact them and touch base. And like there's a few that I actively work towards keeping up those relationships with, because they're awesome. This business has allowed me a lot of experiences and introduced me to a lot of people that I would have never otherwise met. And if it all poofed today, I would still have those relationships, and that's what I care about.
Well, I can tell you that it's been an absolute joy speaking with you today.
It's been hell fun, and like you and I, we've chatted. Like honestly, you and I could probably talk for hours.
We honestly could.
Yeah.
However, we also both have to do other things today too.
Yes. We do. Yeah.
But as soon as we get offline, I know we're going to be talking some more here. Very, very much so. So
yeah.
Marc,
sorry,
can you tell people where they can find you on social media, and can you also mention your website just in case?
Sure. First off, sorry I'm not active in chat. The talking and typing doesn't work for me. So I'm very seldom active in a chat in a game or an interview that I'm a part of. I will probably go through half of these because I'm not even really looking. Twitter, you can find me at actually Twitter and Instagram now. You can find me at I Scream Dice because someone stole Ice Cream Dice and then they gave it to someone else. So I stole their name and I'm just going to hold on to it because they're also a dice company. I'm like, well, when you want your official Twitter brand, I'll trade you. Online, you can find me at icecreamdice.com. If you want my dice carried in your local friendly game shop, please send them my way. I've got a separate wholesale site set up so that they can literally just order and start carrying it so you can save on shipping. Because shipping, unless you live in the States, shipping sucks with me. I mean, I'm in Canada, but I've got a service that brings things across the border for me. So that's pretty much it. And like, seriously, I see there's a lot of people hanging out. So thank you. This was fantastic. And honestly, if you're out there and you ever have Kickstarter, if you ever want to talk to me about anything, honestly, just fucking hit me up. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, Marc, thank you so much.
Thank you, Reid.
And with that, let's do a quick check to see who's won the hold on here. We're gonna see
people
who's won
got
the
to win
contest.
things.
Yeah, we're giving away an Overhead Games character avatar generator.
Oh, cool.
Bad Fapple in chat, you are the winner. One of our dice our tech goblins are going to reach out to you shortly and check to make sure you're there. And then from there, we will reach out to you to talk to you about getting some information so we can get you your prize. So, and with that, thank you guys very much. Be sure and tune in tomorrow, 7 p.m. to check out the Velkin Weave as they face off against Tiamat and some other cool stuff too. So see you guys next week on the Games Tavern Happy Hour.
All right. Take care, everyone.